Hi, everybody. Newton's first law of physics shows us that objects do not change their speed or direction unless they are being acted upon by force. Probably the same is true for organization, and this force is usually called accelerator. You're going to hear in the next few minutes Tzachi talking about the Microsoft Accelerator, which is a very successful business accelerator, and you're going to hear me talk about a completely different type of accelerator, about an international peace accelerator. We are going to do it in a little bit of an experimental mode of presentation that we call the ping pong presentation. A slide by Tzachi, a slide by me.
Thank you. So, corporates, large corporates, Microsoft as an example, has a unique and very big challenge these days. How do we deal with innovation? How do we deal with disruption? There's so many disruptive companies out there. Anthony Jenkins, the former CEO of Barclays, said that the banking industry is facing an Uber moment, which influences about 50% of headcount and about 60% of profits. So how do you connect large corporations with startups? How do you make that connection really work well? So 7 years ago, when I rejoined Microsoft, I was facing this dilemma. I looked at Microsoft and startups and they didn't work well together. We forgot about how to speak. We forgot the language of speaking with startups. And I took on the challenge of how do I fix that? How do I connect startups and Microsoft?
In the past few years, I have been doing a PhD on the subject of negotiations in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And in this research, I have been talking with the heads of the Israeli intelligence community, like the heads of the Mossad, the heads of the National Security Council, etc., and with Palestinians. And I really was seeking to find what can be done differently. You know, how can we solve this conflict? And I've collected 4 insights out of all the insights that provided me for this presentation to share with you. And out of these 4 insights, the International Peace Accelerator was founded.
So, I started the journey of finding the solution to connect the corporate and startups. And in this journey, I looked around the world, what's happening, I saw an interesting phenomenon. There was a startup accelerator phenomena started happening. Something that was pioneered by Y Combinator back in 2005 in the US. And I thought that could be a perfect model to connect corporates and startups. But guess what? Most of the people around me thought it's an idiotic idea. It's not going to work. There was an army of people inside Microsoft that thought it's not going to work. We don't know how to do this work with startups. We don't know the language. And actually, there are other people that are really good at that. Why should we let them lead the work? Friends here in the industry, maybe someone here in the room as well, when I met with them and I told them my great idea, they said, Zach, you're wrong. One, so this was a VC friend, said not a single entrepreneur in his right mind would want to join a Microsoft Accelerator. And the second thing is, I'm not going to invest in them because they made a mistake. They're not a smart entrepreneur. So that's how we started, but as a good entrepreneur, I didn't really listen that well. I had my own truths.
In our leadership course in Kellogg that I did some 17 years ago, our professor told us if a leader of a large organization wants to create some significant change, it's not enough that he will talk about it. He has to do 3 things. First, to set up a goal that all the organizations will know. Second, to dedicate a budget specifically for that. And third, to have very good people that will work on it. Now, in Israel, basically, until now, peace has never been designated, has never been defined as a goal, not even the conflict resolution as an official goal. Second, there has never been a budget for peace. So while the security budget of Israel is some 70 billion shekels annually, what is the peace budget? And third, there has never been a dedicated entity that is working for the long term on peace. And I think that it's time to look at the processes, not only at the end result.
So April 2012, we started our first pilot out of here in Israel. It wasn't an easy start, but we started. It was a very intimate 4-month relationship with great startups. We picked startups we thought have amazing track record or future more than track record, and we gave them everything we think they need in order to be successful. The best industry mentorship, go-to-market support, customer access. We've helped them even in things that you may not think of an accelerator usually helping with. CEOs and founders of startups have multiple issues they deal with. Co-founder challenges. Founder CEO questions, does he even need to take on the CEO role? Is he good as a CEO? Or maybe he should hire someone else to do that role. Investor challenges. How do you clean up your cap table? Should you accept the term sheet? Shouldn't you accept the term sheet? Lots of issues that founders go through, and we've tried to help them in all of these issues. That was what we wanted to achieve with the Accelerator, and that's what we've done since day one.
You know, one of the insights that the people that I interviewed during the PhD research, most of the Israeli national security elite people believe that there is a chance that if a Palestinian state is being formed after a peace agreement is signed, it may become an unstable state that will become then a failed state, and then it will endanger Israel. However, those people that I interviewed told me, you know, you can take two approaches about it. One approach is to say, because of that, in the next 40 years, there is no reason to try to negotiate and to reach a peace agreement, because if in the end of the peace agreement a Palestinian state is being formed and is becoming a dangerous state to Israel, it's a problem. The second approach that I say is to put it as a challenge, as a business challenge, to say, okay, the challenge is how can the world and the Palestinians and the Israelis help in order to ensure that a Palestinian state that is being formed will become a stable and peaceful state.
So, many of you may ask, did it work? We started this pilot again 5.5 years ago. So today we have 7 programs: Bangalore, Beijing, Shanghai, Tel Aviv, Berlin, London, and Seattle. We're going to open 2 more this year. We have 650 graduates. They raised a bit over $3 billion. 45 exits through M&A and 3 IPOs. So it actually worked pretty well. And we got awarded as the #1 accelerator program in China out of 4,500 programs. Fortune named us the #1 ecosystem builder in India, and we're the #1 program here in Israel. So moreover, all of this, we brought Microsoft back to front and center of startup ecosystems in some of the hottest startup ecosystems around the world.
You know, in business, if you don't set a deadline, nothing happens. You know, at least this is from my experience. And the same is probably true for peace building. So we at the International Peace Accelerator, we have set the end of the year 2022 as a deadline in order to sign a peace agreement between the Arabs, the Israelis, and the Palestinians. Now, one of the insights that those group of people provided was that there isn't an honest broker in the conflict. The Arabs do not trust the Americans because everybody there are Jewish people, you know, that are talking with them. The Israelis do not trust the United Nations because it has a majority of Muslim countries, and the Arabs do not trust the United Nations because the Americans usually exercise their veto rights for Israel. So there hasn't been an honest broker, like an unbiased mediator that every couple who is getting divorced should have in this process. This is what we're talking about.
So as of lately, I was asked, based on the success of the Accelerator, I was asked to lead all of Microsoft's startup work around the world. And today, Microsoft is one of the few companies out there that has a really end-to-end solution to startups. From 100,000 startups, it gets our breadth BizSpark offer to 200 accelerators around the world we work with, to our 7 own accelerators, to the work with Microsoft Ventures. Microsoft Ventures only started a couple of years ago and only being perceived as one of the top world corporate venture funds with about 42 investments in that period of time.
I think that the Kellogg network is a great opportunity to help reach peace in the Middle East. It's such a unique network of qualified people that sits in the palace of King Hussein in Jordan, diplomats in Egypt, very senior people in the West Bank and in Israel and around the world, and not only the alumni, also the faculty. So, you know, I don't hate the people that I studied with. I like them, I trust them. We speak the same language, and I think that if we will not be able to bring peace, so who can?
So, as we've discussed here on stage, there are many challenges all of us facing. As individuals, as corporates, as startups, as nations. And we believe that if we put our heads together, we can solve many of these issues much faster than any time in history. So just go and do it, go accelerate. Thank you.